Hello, my name is Rob Edwards and this is my YouTube channel. Welcome back, and today I'm going to be doing another one of my Excerpts episodes, which is where I read a small section of one of my short stories. And in this particular case, I'm tying it in with this month's episode of the podcast. This is the opening of a story called Tales of Chance and Fate, and you can hear the rest of the story on my podcast right now. It's www.StorycastRob.co.uk, but I'll put a link in the description so you'll find it there as well. Tales of Chance and Fate is a western, hence the hat, but it's a bit of a weird western, so it's got magic and goblins and dwarves and a few other bits and pieces of the fantasy genre in there as well. Ooh, that hat's not on very straight, is it? So what we're going to do is I'm going to read just the first section of it, and if you want to hear the rest of it, go check out the podcast. Without further ado, here is the opening of Tales of Chance and Fate by me, Rob Edwards.
Turn around, old man.
Jack shuffled to a halt, hands plunged deep into the pockets of his winter jacket. The cold wind found the gap between collar and hat, no matter how he hunched his shoulders. And now this interruption. The voice was young, high-pitched, a young goblin, probably. There were a few goblin homesteads on the outskirts of town, but he didn't know any of them personally. Run along home, kid. Evening's drawing in, and it looks like snow. Ain't neither one of us wanting their corpse to freeze before the boxmakers can fetch it. The few other people on the street made themselves scarce. The age of high street jewels was over, and not missed, but recent enough that the memories persisted. Jack shut out the sound of slamming doors and shutters, concentrated on the space behind him where the goblin still waited. A shuffling of feet.
I'll shoot you in the back if I have to, but I don't want to shoot the wrong man. Turn around.
You fixin' to kill someone in particular, then? Jack felt the call of fate, less common in recent years, but still too familiar. He pushed it aside. That wasn't the way.
I gotta kill Jack King. Now show your face.
Jack King? Ain't he a gambler and gunslinger? Last gun standing from over 100 shootouts and duels? If I was him, what makes you think this ends well for you?
Just turn around, please,
the goblin said. Sure thing, kid. Jack tottered slowly around, pulled his hands free of his pockets, pushed his jacket around the irons at his hips. His hands may be wrinkled and spotted with age, but they knew this move of old. The goblin boy was even younger than the voice made him sound. If he was human, he looked about 10, but goblins matured faster, so likely he was even younger than that. His clothes were homespun but well made, a successful rancher's son then. The boy goggled at the pistols on Jack's hips, fate on his right, chance on his left. The boy's own gun was a single-shot matchlock, a museum piece really, still deadly, but if he missed his first shot, he wouldn't get a second. You really are him, the goblin said in a whisper. Go home, son, Jack said, not unkindly. The goblin raised his gun.
Sorry, mister.
I know, said Jack, hands a blur. Two pistols barked, the matchlock and fate the retorts simultaneous. Powder smoke enveloped the goblin, but Jack's pistol fired clean. The goblin child whimpered. Seems we both missed, said Jack. He shifted his grip, levelled fate at the boy. Go home, son. The goblin fled. Jack holstered Chance, took a few steps forward and stooped. He picked up the ball and the bullet, embedded in each other, pocketed them. He worked hard, so most people thought of him as a newspaper man with a past, than as a famed gunslinger. He didn't want rumours like that circulating again. Pain burned in his right hand, shooting needles up his arm. Not here. Stumbling, he ran up Main Street, fate in hand. His office key was clumsy in his left hand, but it turned in the lock on the third attempt. Downstairs, the night staff were coming on shift, only a few, enough to get the print run set for the early morning. One staffer on standby in case any news happened overnight. A far cry from when Jack used to run the press himself and defend it time to time. Nobody came for the printing press these days. But his reporters, Jack himself, people could get right riled up when you told the truth about them. But they hadn't run a story about Goblin homesteaders in months. Why come for him? The question was not enough to distract from the agony snaking up his right arm. Jack collapsed into the chair behind his desk, slammed the back of his hand onto the blotter. Fate was cold and heavy, his fingers curled around the engraved hilt. Frost crackled around the barrel tip as it touched the paper on his desk. Jack took 3 rapid, deep breaths, bracing for the pain, then with his left hand pulled his right little finger from the butt of the gun. Flesh ripped. Jack clenched his jaw, his eyes filled with tears. Waves of pain rolled through him. 1 down, 4 more to go. The process left him sweating, even in the cold of his office. When at last it was over, his palm and fingers were pink raw. Blood trickled down his lifeline from where the skin had split at the base of his thumb. Fate lay pristine on his blotter, no mark on it, all 6 rounds chambered, despite Jack never reloading. No sign it had been fired today, no trace of the flesh it had demanded. Jack flexed his hand, adjusting to the pain. The wound would heal over quickly, he knew, but the pain would linger. There was always a price for defying fate. "Damn you," he muttered. Then in one swift movement, he scooped up the pistol and slid it back into its holster. So there we go. There is the start of the Tales of Chance and Fate, available now on my podcast. If you want to hear the rest of the story, to find out why the Goblin Boy came after Jack King, if you want to find out more about the history of Jack and the 2 magical pistols, Chance and Fate, then by all means go check out the podcast right now. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed that. If you want to check out more about me as a writer, click the box here. If you want to find about me and geekery in general, check the box over there. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.